Okay, let's go. Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hours sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We have had a bunch of questions submitted already, which usually I've printed off and I can show you, but the printer's not working. But I can promise you we've had tons, especially because we've been off. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other amazing SEOs live on the call that always share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I personally think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is not just hearing from the four of us, but hearing from everybody else. So please feel free to do that. Like always, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning, Mike, and everyone that has joined us. Thank you all for coming to today is our 70th episode of SEO Office Hours. I wanted to say thank you very much for your support. We took a few weeks out. Our last episode was May 9th. So we're continuing the SEO Office Hours episodes for the rest of the year and more. So we really do appreciate your support. Thank you for coming back to us. Yes, as Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull, and I organize events as well in my free time. And the last one we had actually was on Tuesday. So I have Search London events in Barcelona and in London. This one was in Barcelona. And we have some people on the call that took part in our growth marketing AI webinar. Sorry, growth marketing in AI panel. So thank you, David, for being with us, and thank you for joining us on the show as well today. And we have a super lineup today, as Mike said. We've got loads of questions, and we've also got two fantastic guests, special guests, Mark Williams-Cook and Owain Lloyd-Williams. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Pleasure to
Hello.
be here.
Thank you.
Actually, Owain used to has been to quite a few Search Londons and actually spoke at one or two. So thank you. Thank you for that, Owain. And Mark, I've seen you at many different events. I think the most recent was Brighton SEO. And you've got your own event, Search North's conference coming up, I believe, in September. Is that correct?
It's not actually.
Never mind. I will take that one back.
It was September, and yeah, there's a very sad story there. But basically, he's on the call. Hey, Jack has been doing loads of work organizing it, and the venue massively let us down and pulled out. So it will happen, but it will be next year now. We just need a bit more time to advertise it, get speakers and everyone sorted. But it will be happening.
Okay, good to know. Naughty venue, but yes, I look forward to hearing more from that. So I just want to say a quick introduction, quick hello to everyone that's joined us, loading us live. We've got 26 of us here. Hello, Iber, Julia. We've got Monse, Steve, Rob, Emma Jane. Thanks all for joining us today. I'll give a brief intro to our speakers, unless Mike, you want to say anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm just happy to be. I was saying just before we started recording, the jazzy shirt on. Jordan was on just before the break, and I feel like he really stepped it up with the shirt. Watch this space.
Great to have everyone back here today. And as I mentioned, we will be continuing this. We took a mini break, but we are continuing throughout the summer and after. So thank you very much to our two special guests. I did a tiny intro first, but I'll be doing that now. Mark Williams-Cook and Owain Lloyd-Williams. So Mark, you have over 22 years of SEO experience. You're also the co-owner of Candor Search Agency in Norwich. You're the founder of Also Asked. You've also created one of the most popular SEO courses on Udemy. And also you are supporting the Norfolk Clubhouse. That is Candor's 2025 charity. So this is a local mental health support charity, and you're doing loads of activities for them. You're doing a lot. You're doing the 1,000-mile challenge, I believe. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that's right. Every year we have charity we support at Candor, and then we'll do a donation at the start of the year and then organize various things to raise money for them during the year. We've actually as well, so Jack, who's on this call, is believe it or not, doing a sponsored MMA fight for them, which he's successfully raised quite a lot of money for. And as an agency at the minute, we're doing between us in a month 1,000 miles of running, jogging, crawling, walking. I'll put a link in there. Oh, there we go. You've already put a link in there. So if anyone is feeling generous, Norfolk Clubhouse is, yeah, mental support charity just local to us.
Oh, great. It's good to hear that you guys are getting involved in that. And yes, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And thank you for joining us on the show and always being open to taking part in these webinars.
You're welcome.
And thank you to Owain Lloyd-Williams. He's coming onto the show today. You've been in SEO and digital marketing for around 15 years. You have a lot of experience working in-house, working at agencies. You are now running your own business. You've been doing that since 2020. Prior to that, you were head of SEO, the EU SEO for Samsung, Chidzey, also head of SEO for freelance marketplace People Per Hour. And you've spoken at other events as well, including Search London. So very welcome, a big welcome to SEO Office Hours.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm loving that we've got the two kind of double-barreled surname kings with both of Williams. I mean, it doesn't get too confusing, but no, very happy to be here. Thank you both to Joe and Michael for letting me in. It's great to see some familiar faces and not so familiar faces. Yeah, look forward to getting started.
Yeah, and you've also taken in another role. You are a new parent. Congratulations.
That is correct. Yes, 6 weeks into the journey. So I guess as a result of sleep deprivation and learning the value of having two hands at one time, you might get some interesting answers from me during the course of this webinar. We're going to go full in. The filter might be off. Who knows? But yeah, little boy, 6 weeks old. Yeah, it's really special. Can't recommend it enough. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. It's good. Good to have a summer baby as well.
Yeah, very much, especially appreciate your time as you don't have that much. Okay, we will kick off because I know we've got loads of questions, Mike.
Yes, we have. Because we have been off, we've had more questions than usual, some also being out of date because there have been so many changes. So I've tried to group questions and all of that sort of stuff. So hopefully everybody that's asked questions will feel like they're included in some way. And so I think we should just start off with the first question being, what's new with search? Because we had lots of questions around different parts of that. And so I thought that would be a good place to start. Who would like to kick off?
What's new with search?
Yeah, what's new with search? Because
that's an open one.
That is a massive one, isn't it? That is a massive one.
That question most weeks. And usually I avoid it because we naturally talk about it each week in conversations. But obviously so much has changed in the last month or so. I think why not? So Owain, go for it. What's new with search at the moment?
I guess since the last time we ran one of these, or you ran one of these, there has been that massive announcement that occurred, re-AI mode, which I guess I was on paternity leave when that happened, and I put my one free arm that I had looking at LinkedIn, keeping up to date with being a good parent, looking at SEO updates whilst having a newborn in my arm. I was looking at all that kicking off and everyone kind of having various opinions and stuff. Yeah, I've not really tested it too much myself. We've been experimenting quite a bit with getting various wins and AI overviews. There's some interesting stuff there that we've been looking into with some of my clients I'm working at. So I work with a lot of quite big enterprise type clients that would typically you'd think would perform quite well for those AI overview type results that can sometimes rely on things like link equity and stuff like that. So that's been one thing I've been looking into a lot more. We might wrap up with this question, so I might be jumping ahead a bit too far with myself here, but I'm excited about all of this because it means that a lot of the stuff that I really like about SEO, which is the content side of stuff, which is writing in-depth, informative content, that I think this whole AI thing, the whole kind of search patterns around conversational search, topical authority, all that kind of stuff, I think that leans into much more kind of like we have to really do our work and not just go into certain tools, look at keywords, look at what they're doing and so on, and just write content based on that, like top 10 or best in whatever or spoken hub content. That's all still important, that still matters, but I think that it's an interesting period in terms of weeding out some of the kind of quite bad content that is across the web. I'm being optimistic here. I don't know if that will be the case, but I'm seeing it as a kind of a bit of a refresh in being able to write really long, I think hopefully rewarding people that write original long content that is long form, is based on conversational research and so on, that LLM behavior tends to pick up and people tend to search for using LLM. Yeah, that's an interesting trend that I've been exploring a bit recently.
Amazing. Mark, do you have any thoughts? What's new in search? for you?
Yeah, the big thing is everyone trying to work out how LLMs in AI mode is working. I think it's interesting that the things I'm seeing cited as things we should be doing remind me of early 2000s SEO, in that there's talk about things like semantic triples and chunking and sort of things that I think in 5, 6 years time we're going to look back on and be like, oh, obviously that was a silly thing to do, like how we look back at things like keyword density and keyword stuffing and things like that now, because they used to work. I think the watching, and I know we've got some tools people here, but it feels like there's quite a desperate scrabble with some of the tools at the moment, trying to work out how they pivot to give us useful data for AI mode, for LLMs. And that's probably the biggest thing for me at the moment, is having to communicate all of this to clients. So to be very frank, my view at the moment is pretty much like what Owen said, in terms of a lot of the things that we're doing that I feel will help with AI mode, with LLM search, have a huge overlap with good things you should have been doing for SEO marketing anyway. However, there's a big comms challenge in that lots of people are approaching our SEO clients being like, oh, are you doing geo yet? Are you doing AIO yet? You need to be doing these things, which is clients trying to be smart, make good decisions, look ahead, and then coming to us a bit worried, like, oh, I heard I should be doing this and this, and I need to be writing all my content in easy paragraph chunks now and FAQs and all this. We've actually started a little project where we're breaking down a whole bunch of things about LLM search, AI mode, into 2-minute videos and sending them out to our clients as comms of, look, this is where this sits, this is what we know about this. And yeah, I saw in chat, in the background of this, we've got a core update happening, which almost seems like non-consequential to me at the moment, because nowadays we don't get told what they're focusing on. I don't think they even know it's like they're basically launching a new model and seeing how it hits on live. But yeah, that's where 80% of my thoughts are at the moment, less so on things like updates. Like, I'm hoping, collateral damage aside, they're not things I have to worry about anymore.
Amazing. Joe, any thoughts? Anything else that's new in search at the moment?
Yes, we had that massive announcement May 2021, obviously Google I/O, the AI mode update. And yes, Charlotte mentioned in the chat about the core update that went out on Monday. I think what I see is we have a lot of people that are thinking that they need to jump on and be the bandwagon. I need to do this. I need to be GEO. I need to have this strategy. And I would say, have a look at where your resources are. We do need to be thinking about AI, of course, but look at the facts. So there's a lot of studies that have gone out. Mark, you produced one and you shared one, I think it was yesterday, about how you analyzed 8.5 million English PAA results with Also Asked over the last few weeks, and you found that 12.6% of those in the boxes are now AI generated by Google. So I would say for now, people to actually focus on the studies that are out there. SEMrush has released a few studies as well about what AI mode is, what they've done, what they've been able to compare and see and analyze, also about LLM activity. So I would say look and see what's out there in the marketplace, take the learnings from that, and plan with time how you can be incorporating AI into your strategy, and then analyze where you can fit that in. So don't just think, oh, I need to be GEO, without an actual giving yourself the time and the time and the space to do that. Because we've seen a lot of people that are stretched anyway. Just allocate the time for yourself. And if you have a resource, if you have one person in your team that can just focus on some of this, if you're an agency, I think what you've said, Mark, sending out these 2-minute videos is really good. At SEMrush, I've started an AI and search webinar series. We've got a lot of people questioning things. There's a lot of questions out there. There's not enough answers. So make sure you, as I said, look and see the studies that are out there, and then plan this for the rest of you, for the next 6 months of 2025 and beyond. Back to you, Mike.
Great. Yeah, I think one of the things, and I guess this is part of what we've already been talking about in terms of AI, is just reporting's a little bit chaotic at the moment, and it's not like it was. And I think that's been a little bit confusing for clients, particularly where, for example, in some cases, clicks might be down and or impressions are up and all of that stuff. So I think that because we don't have that separated at the moment, that's a bit confusing. And even in the tools where they try to do that, if you say using something like advanced web ranking, where that tends to be based on the only on the keywords you're tracking, that it's just reporting in general is like really confusing. You appear in the AI overviews, but maybe actually it's quite hard to see your website, but it seems like you're number one or something like that. I think it's all from that perspective. That's something that's new, particularly with AI overviews. Like Joe, you were saying there about Mark's report, there's more of them now. There's far more of them now than there were the month before. And so with that growing, it's just becoming a little bit more confusing. And I know just from on like Blue Sky and X and so on, that lots of people have been asking Google to separate that stuff and such. And hopefully that might be coming at some point. But for this question in general, one thing I would say is there are some amazing newsletters out there. So for anybody that wants to keep up with search, this is how I tend to do it, along with testing stuff myself. Mark, you've got a really good newsletter, the Core Update newsletter. There's SEO FOMO. I think most people, if you're not subscribed to that as well, I would definitely do that. And Blue Array do a really good newsletter as well. But I think that those two come out, Blue Array and SEO FOMO tends to come out on the Sunday. And Mark, yours comes out on the Wednesday. So it's quite a nice, if you
Monday.
get two of them, that's great. Did you say Monday?
Yeah, it's Monday.
Oh, sorry, Monday.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would definitely subscribe to those. Okay, so there's lots of similar follow-up questions that we can get into. Oh, actually, before we do, Joe, is there anything in the chat?
Just lots of questions and comments about what we've been saying. There's lots of tools out there, Steve's saying. Once they were saying your study is very interesting. Mark, Jordan also shared something around the zero click, the growth of zero click. I was going to mention that. Also, yeah, Jeff asked a question, and I think you've answered very well. Mark, I'm just looking at lots of things. Sorry, it's hard to multitask after taking a few weeks out of this. Yeah,
I feel you. I feel you.
Okay, sorry. And also, Mike, you shared a post about the AI mode testing as well.
Yeah, that was from Salt Agency. They've done some
Yeah.
testing, so I thought that was.
No, that's good. No, that's it really. And also just to emphasize what Mike said as well, the newsletters are great to keep up to date with that. There's a lot going on, so it's really hard to keep track. So I would definitely recommend subscribing to those newsletters, SEO FOMO, and the Core Update. And there's a lot out there. I can't mention everything. I'll go back to my notes and come back later.
Okay, often where people can submit questions, often we get rants. And again, it's usually something that I ignore, but I'm going to be a bit naughty today and read this one because it's a rant and a question. And I have exchanged there were there's quite a lot of swearing in this. I'll leave that to your imagination, and I'll try not to swear as I read it out. Part question, part rant. Anyone else feel like SEOs become a sandpit where every fox in the borough takes a dump and then walks off? You share an idea on Slack, then 15 people jump in and tell you why it won't work and then disappear. Then there's AI overviews, LLMs, remixing your content, and a slow, quiet drop in traffic. And we're the ones expected to explain it. Visibility blurred, reporting's messy, and the advice, create useful content. What, so we can train the machines to write even better copy? Then it's build a brand, do digital PR, be more creative. Sure, but we've got a brand team, a PR team, a creative team, and somehow SEO is expected to do all of it without stepping on anyone's toes. With shrinking budgets and less say than anybody at the table. AI still brings in just a fraction of traffic, yet it's dominating the conversation. And I think we're the best ones that are placed to help, but we're usually stuck outside the meeting rooms whilst everybody's listening to the person running TikTok. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to sell more washing machines. Anyone else feeling like this? Or have I completely lost the plot?
I love that.
That's great. That's a very good rant.
Mark, as this person, actually, just before we do it, I pulled out a couple of questions here from it. So firstly, in general, is everybody else feeling a little bit like this? And then also working in a large business with multiple departments, does anybody have any experience of handling that situation? And should SEOs be involved in the AI conversation? Are we the ones that are best placed?
Yeah.
Mark?
I think the first thing that person mentioned there was how to describe it, taking a dump in the sandbox on Slack and everyone telling you why it won't work. So one of the things I think makes a good SEO is knowledge asymmetry, right? Which is knowing or understanding things differently to other people. And sometimes when you have an idea that lots of people are like, oh, I don't think that'll work, that can be a really great thing to experiment with, because I've met so many clients over the years that are like, we want some great idea, unique idea. You give them the unique idea, and then it's our competitors aren't doing that, and then they're really good. And then in a few years, I end up working for those competitors, and they're looking back at those people going, oh, they're not doing that. I would say basically, if you've got good solid reasoning for why you think something will work, because you're basing it on a patent or a good theory or how you think things are going, then I would push hard to get that tested, even if people are doubting you on that. I can really empathize as well with trying to get things done in big businesses where they want the ROI like forecast ahead of doing anything. And it was actually, so John Alderson had a brilliant quote that I keep stealing, which is that he said, SEO stopped being a performance channel when we lost keyword data, which was obviously a long time ago. And now with stuff like AI search, this whole funnel is happening inside the search. My view has always been, and is counter, I think, to what a lot of people talk about, is I try and get people less interested in metrics, because I think so many good marketing ideas get killed before they even are allowed to start, because someone can't justify it with a set of metrics. Like, for instance, Jack and I have our like podcast. It's been really good for us. We've had people tell us we really like it. We get leads from it. We get sponsorship from it. I couldn't tell you after a year like what the ROI of doing that was, right? It had no real good visibility, had no leads. We did it because it felt this is the right thing to do. That's, I think, going to become more true if you take a step back. So if you're trying to sell more washing machines, I think they said the amount of people going on the internet to search and spend money on washing machines is basically unchanged, right? So when we're seeing this great decoupling and we're worried about this, the amount of money flowing through the web to those businesses is basically the same, right? Just because your ability to measure it has been hampered doesn't mean the money has evaporated. I don't think we're going to see, I think the visibility golden age has passed in terms of metrics and measurement. There's no good business reason for people like, say, ChatGPT to give us a look under the hood. Same certainly with Google, because the more opaque they are, the more ads they can sell, is the short version. In terms of communicating that, it's bold, but I would have that conversation again about revenue, take a step back. You've still got some data, obviously, in analytics of like where the sales are coming from, because we've got the referral data, even if you can't see the journey before that. And we know what things impact that. But the analogy I've always used, and I'll finish on this because I realize I'm taking a lot of time here, is like if someone asked you how to get better at running, say they want to run faster, and you said, okay, yeah, two things: you have to go running yourself and you have to have a good diet, right? And then someone said, okay, how much better will I get if I just do the diet thing? What's the ROI of just the diet? Like, it doesn't work like that. You need to do both things and trust in that process. So yeah, there's a lot of soft skills there, I think, especially with bigger companies that you need, and confidence to be able to put that point ahead.
Very well summed up there, Mark. And then you went into a lot of detail. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Owen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just going to lean in on the kind of soft skill thing as well a bit more. I think there's a lot to unpack in that rant, and I do kind of sympathize and experience that. And it is the day to day. It's like, what's that? Forgive me, I've forgotten the Greek mythology, the definition of insanity, the guy pushing the boulder up the hill, whatever his name was. It does feel like that sometimes. There's a lot going on. There's people asking questions. There's various kind of budget decisions and things like that. But I think this is a good period for SEOs who want to maybe cross over into cross-channel disciplines and taking the skills that we have learned from SEO, whether that's content, whether that's technical, whether that's stakeholder management, whether that's ROI, reporting. A lot of this does traverse into different funnels, right? It can traverse into social media, it can traverse into UX, it can do PPC, it can do web design. All those things are still there for us to kind of get involved in the conversations in. And that's how I find myself repositioning my offering as an independent consultant to people that are wanting to grow their businesses online. Obviously, that can be difficult because people are looking for SEO as a service and see it as within that discipline, within SEO. I'm not really helping the washing machine man here in this particular answer, but I think once I get into a business, I start to understand, okay, what are the pain points across different departments, digital, branding, whatever that happens to be, and start to have conversations around what it is that I do as an SEO consultant and how that can cross over and help everyone. And I think that still matters. At the same time, things like foundational stuff like technical SEO health and all that, everything that comes with that is still so important. I was literally running a redirect mapping project before I joined this call, and I was just like, yeah, there's so much stuff here that this team that I need to deliver the work to need to know about in terms of href tags, in terms of sitemap updates. All this kind of stuff still matters so much. The other week I had a business come to me with drops on a page, and it was just a basic case of someone putting a robots TXT blocker on one section of the site. All that stuff still happens. So there's still so much remit for SEO in general. But I guess my kind of yes, thank you, Jack. Yeah, Sisyphus, thank you. Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, just to sum that all up, I think it's I want to go into this modern age where we do have all these challenges around, metrics and traditional kind of measurement of what we're judged on traditionally, rankings, visibility, clicks, all that kind of thing, and move into that kind of more overarching brand space. That's incredibly platitudinal. I understand that. We're trying to marry up everything together with everything that SEO brings to the table, which is so much just beyond within the kind of main filter and channel of SEO itself.
Amazing. Joe, have you got advice for this person?
Yeah, I want to say that I know that there's a lot happening in AI. It seems to be dominating the conversation, but you can control that. There's a lot of talk about it because it is new. The amount of people that are looking and that are searching in LLMs versus Google, it's a fraction. So I would go back to the point I made earlier about look at the data and back that up. Yes, you should have an AI strategy, but also if you're a consultant, highlight the key things that you do and where you're allocating your time. For example, digital PR, that is normally a separate person, a separate channel within a company, or a separate department in agency. So highlight where your role starts and where it ends and how you can help them with, for example, the digital PR. And then the other one around, so we can train machines to write even better copy. I don't know if anyone remembers, but this article spinner, I mentioned it on Search Barcelona back in Tuesday. People used to put an article in and it would spin different versions of it. So you didn't have to write the same content. And now we're seeing, okay, ChatGPT or other tools can actually help us and write content. But the thing is, it's down to, you can use these tools to help you, but I wouldn't necessarily have them write everything for you. Going back to what came out a long time ago, EAAT, it's down to the authority. Build up your brand, build up or the company's brand that you're working for. Make them the authority in those topics. So I feel this person but I think it maybe also comes back to the education for this particular client. I don't think they understand exactly what this person is doing for them. And so it's down to that consultant to say, this is what I can actually offer you. And these are the areas that I don't work in, but I can lead you to X, Y, and Z person.
Great, amazing advice, everybody. Because I obviously, as I was reading that, I was filtering. So sorry if I wasn't making much sense. So I'm a little bit scared to give an answer. No, I'm just joking. So I don't work in house. I work for myself. So I don't have necessarily that issue that you've got. But I used to work in house, and one of the things I'd recommend is maybe focus a little bit more on your internal branding and a bit on finding some champions in the business. We've talked about this stuff before, but maybe help people understand a little bit more about SEO and why, for example, you might be best placed to help with the AI stuff. And for instance, with those different teams, I'm sure you can add a different perspective to what they're doing and maybe explain why to the PR team it's really important for you to also get involved. And you can probably find some great ways of getting more people to the site when they're doing campaigns and stuff like that. I think my advice there is always just try and make them look better. And I think if you do that, they'll usually be very thankful for your advice. And also, I think if your business is really interested in AI and they're spending a lot of time on that, it's a really good opportunity for you to also have that time to do research and so on. If I think the opposite would be worse, where actually they don't want you to spend time on that and they want you to focus on tactics from a long time ago. It's actually, in some ways, there are some positives there. Being allowed to make that time is really good. The Slack thing, I don't put my work, I try and avoid when I'm dealing with clients sharing too much via Slack. And instead, I like to jump on calls or get in a room with the people that are important to the project and understand. And if you're going to put stuff on Slack, and especially if there's lots of people on the channel who are then giving you feedback, I couldn't think of anything worse. So if there's a way of maybe changing that, and if someone asks a question on Slack, maybe go and speak to them rather than having a conversation with 15 people. Yeah, that would be awful. I hope that helps. Joe, do we have anything in the chat? Any advice from others on how to help this person?
Yeah, sorry, just going through, there's a lot of things. Yeah, and then James saying about in big businesses, educating all teams in marketing on AI and LLMs is very important, but avoid calling them experts. I agree with Mark about his point about metrics and revenue. Great talk, great points. I also wanted to actually highlight, sorry, this is related to it, the show that you came on, Owen, with Jack, when you talked about how to create fun and engaging content on the Candor podcast. I'm just sharing the link for your LinkedIn one, because it just shows you, I think if people are, it comes back to one of the points here about the content, about the person was saying about being more creative. And I think that episode is really good and highlights quite a lot of those points within that, outside of AI.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. Jack and I had a conversation around B2B chiefly, but it led into a lot of the stuff we've been talking about here around AI. And I've got a blog post summarizing the key points. I did not use ChatGPT to write. I'll have that will be coming out quite soon as well. Yeah, that's definitely some good conversations we had on that one.
No, I think we're ready for the next one. It was a Search with Candor podcast. So this is the one, and then Mark also said he doesn't know the ROI of it exactly, and it worked with your brand and it's been very successful. And then also your own sharing of your own tips. And I think this goes back to the education. You're doing the unsolicited SEO tips. And then from that, you actually created a newsletter. Then you yourself, Mark and Candor and Jack have been seen as authorities in that space. So AI can't take that away.
I guess that really helps that in that business, you've got directors that understand the industry and understand SEO and marketing and so on. Whereas in businesses like appliances, for example, the bosses of that might not have a marketing background. So I guess maybe education and doing some training and stuff, if it's possible, might help. But I also love the Search Candor podcast by Jack. It's so good. Definitely, if you haven't subscribed, it's one of my definite I have to listen to. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Okay, let's jump on the next question. So I think this is a fairly simple one. This person is basically, they used to have a hobby website, I'm assuming like a blog, and they allowed it to expire, and that was about a year ago. And it used to get traffic. They just didn't have time to maintain it, but they do now. And they want to know, is it worth basically buying back the domain and reinstating all the content, or is that a bit pointless now? And is it like starting again?
Can I answer this one? Because actually I have the same situation
Joe,
myself, actually.
Did you submit the question?
Pardon? I didn't know.
Okay,
I did not submit it. Okay, so I would just say overall, now that storage in virtually is relatively cheap, depending, of course, how many gigabytes you buy, I would say that sometimes people forget to clean out their data, clean out their blog, clean out their website. And I would say if you have the chance to have a look at some of the posts, maybe you've got them offline, have a look and see, are they ones that you want to keep on the site or not? Is this a hobby site that you want to start up again? If so, then is there anything new that you want to change? So I would say, is it worth buying it back? First of all, it depends how much it costs, how much you have available. Do you want to do this? If yes, okay, great. And then reinstating the content, I would say if you don't have an offline version and you want to actually review it, then yes, you can reinstate it. If you already have an offline version, like you've already created those blog posts and then you uploaded it online, which is a very good practice to do, so that if your site goes down, you have a backup, nice. Then don't reinstate the content if you've actually decided to change direction. And it's okay if you do that. Take this as an opportunity to start afresh and to do something new.
Great. Owain or Mark, do you have any thoughts on anything else on that?
Forgive me, Mike. Did he say what industry his website was in that he wants to buy back? Did he mention a niche?
No, it's just a hobby website, it says.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just thinking about this in terms of like why people start hobby sites, and it's immediate. I think about affiliate marketing and things like that. And I think, yeah, Steve, I agree with Steve in the chat. If it's a hobby site, great, go for it. You can still get a lot of traffic from content if there's already a kind of existing content that's there, and it's just a case of reinstating that and perhaps updating it here and there. Then that's great. I would definitely love to have that as an asset. Whether or not you're looking to monetize it, affiliate content, AdSense, I don't know. I think that's probably quite tricky these days, given what we're seeing with the changes of search. I have a hobby site myself that I maintain. It's on while swimming. It gets traffic spikes in hot weather every now and again. When I get time to add new posts, it's like locations in, let's say, the northeast of England. It picks up a bit of traffic on that. I haven't even considered monetizing it yet. It just sits there, and I get angry messages from people telling me to take posts down because they don't want people coming to their locations. That's the bulk of my interactions with it. But yeah, I think there's still opportunity to grow communities, grow brands, grow organically through content, through posts, particularly with what AI overviews could offer us in the future. Whether or not you're looking to monetize that in the old way, affiliate type blogging, I don't know. I think that's a difficult one to start from scratch these days.
I just want to add, so a black hat thing that's working really well at the moment that I gave some examples of was like, I saw a gambling affiliate site that bought an expired school domain, and then they republished the school domain, which was 600 pages, and they republished 599 of those pages. They just changed the homepage to the gambling affiliate thing. And because the 99.5% of the site looks like the same site to Google, it let the homepage rank really well, and it ranked like #1 in the UK for all these really highly volume competitive casino search terms. So from a technical point of view, if they reinstate their domain with the old content, is it worth it in terms of will it rank again? I would say it's highly likely that if it ranked previously and you put the same content back on it, it's highly likely it would just start ranking again. My caveat would be if it was ranking pre-HCU and now they want to put it live, then I wouldn't probably bet on it, because small little hobby site I'm interested in sounds like the exact thing that HCU steamrolled over, right? So unless it had brand searches, which have probably died out now, I'd say it's a low chance if it was only ranking pre-HCU that it would do anything now.
Amazing advice. I agree. As Steve in the chat said, personally, I wouldn't unless it's a hobby that you love. And I totally agree with that. I think that you probably let it go for a reason. And if it's about traffic and purely about traffic numbers, unless you're an SEO and you want to use it for testing or something like that, I probably would focus on something I'm really passionate about. That would just be something I would add. Joe, was there anything else in the chat?
We had that, so Jordan was saying that on the back of Mark's point, how much of risk do you take if you leave it as it is? And I think that if it's a hobby, it depends on what you want to do. And then Monsu was saying, like, if it's not been bought yet, maybe just think about, yeah, if you have time to maintain it, what's your purpose? Do you want to monetize it and so on? I think really, if you have the time and you want to do it, great, but you can also use it as an opportunity to do something else. Simon says to go for it. At the very minimum, you'll have an additional new hobby of trying to get the site to re-rank. Ooh, and then you can have a little case study too.
I got married over the break, and now, and my other half absolutely she loved creating a wedding website and having all of that. So I'm now worried that she's going to want to do some sort of hobby website like that with me, because she got very excited about that side of things. Okay, how long have we got? Oh, not very long. Okay, we will just jump on another very quick question, which is if Google SERPs don't make sense, is there a formal way to report it where a real human from Google actually investigates it?
That is a good question. I haven't heard that, but
Owain, you're nodding.
So I guess I have a couple of examples where once I had a client whereby the meta description, I probably can't share what I'm about to describe because it would break all kinds of NDAs. But the element on the SERP of the homepage of this quite well-known enterprise brand was absolutely insane. We were trying to struggle in terms of where it was getting that data from. It was basically like a repeat of the brand name taking up way too much real estate in terms of what we normally see from meta description in that kind of top SERP results for that particular brand. We had to engage John Mueller on that one, actually. So I don't know. It got fixed. I wasn't directly involved in that, but one of my colleagues did reach out to someone at Google. They had a look at it and they did review it and fix it. We explored every possible avenue as to why technically this was happening. We couldn't find anything that suggests that would inform as to why that was happening. So I think that does still happen and it can still happen. So that's my recent story. I'd love to be able to share the screenshot because it was nuts. But the click-through rate must have been insane during that time as well. But yeah, I think that still goes on.
Mark, do you have any? Do you know of any kind of formal process or anything? Or
You've got the send feedback, like at the bottom of the SERPs, right? Which I believe humans do review because you send them with a screenshot. But the outcome, I think, of those things is more, if you think this doesn't make sense, it will go back to a team who are taking the approach of how do we fix this from like an algorithm point of view, rather than jumping in to fix a specific thing. If something is like egregiously broken or there's a bug, I think that's what the escalation points of John Mueller's like super helpful. I've reported things to him before and had them get passed on and fixed. I think that's the only way. The only other way, I guess, is like I do see stuff that maybe people like Lily Ray post where it becomes suddenly like a public issue where it's a little bit embarrassing that something's showing. That tends to get fixed quite quickly. So I wouldn't say I define that as a formal way of doing it, but it works, right? So there'd be my thing. If you think this result isn't right, then I think the feedback is probably the best you're going to get, even if you speak to a Googler. If it's actually broken, egregiously wrong, like dangerous, whatever, then normally it's worth speaking directly to one of them on Blue Sky or LinkedIn or Slack or wherever.
Great, amazing. I've also found the Googlers to be really helpful. If you Google them, you can easily find all of their email addresses. And I would usually just make sure if you're going to email them to send something concrete to explain why you think it doesn't make sense, not just because you think you want your website to be the top of Google for something. There's also the Search Central community as well, where you can ask questions, and they do like it's not live anymore, but they do like an office hours as well, where they pre-record and run through some things. And for what it's worth, if you're not getting any help there, I think these sort of issues are SEO's dreams. If you feel like you've got a site and actually it's not performing as well as it should, or the results don't seem to make sense, I would reach out to an agency or a consultant, because I think that they're the easiest clients to help. That's what I find anyway. And one way, if we ever get inquiries from people who say this, the first thing I'll do is look at something like Trustpilot or one of those, and see how they actually compare in terms of experiences and ratings and reviews and stuff like that compared to competitors. And I think that's a really good starting point. So if you think you're the best at something and should rank really well, actually seeing if real people who have bought your products or used your services agree, then I think that's a really good project to work on. So I definitely reach out to agencies and stuff like that. Okay. Sorry, Joe, do we have anything in the comments or chats?
No, that's good. I think we've answered a lot of that. We just got 9 minutes left, so see if we can get another question in there.
We've got lots of quite broad questions, because as I said, I collated them. Let's go with, no, that's too broad. Well, okay, very quickly, if this is all right. It is quite a broad question, but I think we can still run through it. If clicks are down, if they're reducing, what are we actually optimizing for?
Yeah.
Joe, why don't you start?
Sorry, I was just writing it.
By the way, I can't find the question, but that was what they were asking.
Oh, I found the question there. So okay, visibility without traffic, zero-click search. There's AI overviews, the class of these clicks. Then what are we actually optimizing for? Sorry. How will you explain this to bosses and clients? Simon says you're optimizing for the money, and so did Monse. Really, it's about, we touched on this earlier. I would say it's really important to note that the way people are searching has changed, And people will not necessarily click through to your website through maybe traditional ways. If you're ranking a specific, you're ranking position 1, okay, we didn't click through. The AI reviews, they will talk about your brand, but they may not click through, but your brand will be strong. If you're an authority in your brand, in your space, you're talking about, you're known for, let's say you're using eco-friendly materials to produce your trainers or clothing, people will know about your brand. So even if there is a 0 click, people will still come to your website. I think actually people should stop looking at just the SEO traffic, but actually the overall traffic, because yes, maybe SEO might drop, but overall you might actually see an increase in traffic, and you may see an increase in revenue as well. Back to Mark's point earlier, where the fact that revenue is still very important. So try and measure it in that way. So that's visibility. It is how you explain this to bosses and clients. I would say the search landscape is changing. Maybe people are not actually looking at SEO in their specific, they're not driving the traffic for SEO, but you may actually have overall traffic to your site have increased.
Amazing. Sorry, I asked such a broad question, but they're all quite broad, as I said. Owain, anything to add to what Joe said?
Yeah, it's a $50 million question, isn't it? And it's a tricky one where you've been brought in as an SEO and you've been on the project with a client for however many years and you are judged on rankings. Why do we hire you? Rankings, well, not rankings, traffic, let's say, for example. It is, to use that buzzword, it is a bit of a decoupling. We're having to reframe the value of what we do. I would definitely echo some of the conversations in the chat around money. It's quality of traffic, not quantity. It does become a little bit, we're very early on in actually feeding this back to clients and framing the conversation and reporting on it accurately. I think that's the real challenge at the moment. And how SEO kind of contributes to overall user experience, overall brand visibility. That is a very kind of quite vague and quite fluffy concept to trying to communicate to clients in like tangible metrics. But that is, I think, is where we're going as an industry. Hopefully that kind of backs up one of the points I mentioned earlier about SEO traversing different digital departments and feeding into the overall digital journey, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's focusing in on visibility, quality of traffic, and I guess overall conversions from SEO, as well as brand awareness. I think is a big one. It's going to see it's a big one, particularly on AI reviews, I think.
Go for it, Mark.
When I speak to clients about this, I try and get them to think about a website as just one way people can interact with your digital business, being that a business is essentially a database, right? And a website is just one window into that. And I'd actually go further to say that in some ways, websites are like anti-customer, anti-consumer, in that the deck is stacked for the company. So if I give you another example, if you go into a supermarket like in the UK, all of the daily stuff like the milk, bread and eggs is strategically placed at the back of the shop. So you have to walk past everything else so you see it and might buy something else, right? So if we take that example of a website is a supermarket, and we used to say people would be like, where do you want to buy bread from? Oh, here's a shop. You can go in that one and find it, and they go in and find it. We're now more in a paradigm where you can wait outside. You don't have to go in and have all the hustle and the bustle and the salespeople and the marketing. And you can just say to someone, yeah, go and get me like 3 of the best loaves of brown bread. And then they'll go in and bring them out to you in your car park and be like, people say this one's good and this one's particularly healthy and this one's the cheapest one. And it's more of almost like a concierge service. That's what we're optimizing for, right? So before we were trying to get people into our shop, and then we were doing our best CRO stuff and stacking the deck against them to spend as much money as possible, which can really piss people off. Like when I try and book a flight on Ryanair and they're trying desperately to get me to spend more money and doing every trick in the book, that's really annoying. I have to have like my guard up to do this, right? If I could outsource that and just be like, here is what I want to do, that reduces friction. And that's what we're optimizing for. So we're optimizing for what's going to make the agent bring our loaf of bread out to the person and be like, this is good. People say this is good. And I see lots of people typing brand. That's one thing there. So that's how I explain it. There's still a lot to optimize for. You just can't think of, as we said earlier, that it's not the same metrics anymore, because the paradigm is slowly changing on how people are going to and want to interact as well, which I think is a positive thing.
Amazing. Fantastic answers. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the time. We've got 2 minutes left. So what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment? Joe, what are you most excited about?
Well, I'm really excited to be back at SEO Office Hours.
Hey!
We'll be continuing this for the foreseeable future. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Owen, what are you most excited about it in terms of SEO at the moment? Obviously, you've got a new baby, so that's the
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I've just got a newborn kid, so everything falls to the wayside at the moment.
Yeah.
Probably not the best person to answer, but no, I mean, just what I said earlier, like I'm this is a massive paradigm shift. We talk about SEO always changing, always has changing. This does feel, in my relatively short-ish career, like over the course of SEO, the internet in its kind of overall existence, it does feel quite significant. And I'm excited about some of the ways in which we're going to have to think differently around content, around user journeys, around building websites to get that product to people in the age of people using LLMs and AI. So I think it's scary, but I think it's encouraging kind of different ways of thinking. And from a content point of view, which is what I was mentioning earlier, I think there's some interesting, hopefully some positive changes there in how we approach that and not just SEO the content, which is good for me.
Amazing. Mark?
I'm looking forward to breaking LLMs because I think they're really primitive and they're exploitable. And I can't wait over the next few months to give some great case studies of all the silly things you can do for fun.
Amazing answers. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Owen. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in to watch live, and welcome back to you too. Thank you. Thank you to those who are watching afterwards on YouTube. Thank you, Joe, so much for being an amazing co-host. Thank you. And I hope everybody has a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mark, Mike, and Owen. See you next week.
And thank you to those who submitted the questions as well. Sorry, I always forget them. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.